All right. So today we will be starting with variations in psychological attributes. That is the first chapter of class 12 NCERT. Okay. So the first topic that we have to discuss is individual differences in human functioning. We are going to discuss individual differences in human functioning. Okay. So the first term that we are going to discuss today is variations. Now, what do we actually understand by variation? Variation or variability. Let's first focus on variability. Variability is basically a fact of nature as per your NCERT, and all the individuals are no exception to it. So every individual has to adhere to some sort of variability. Fine. Now, when we're talking about individual differences, it refers to the distinctiveness. It refers to the distinctiveness and the variations in people's characteristics and behavioral patterns. See, every individual is different and every individual is going to have different characteristics and behavior. Now, that variation, when you see across people's characteristics and behavioral pattern, that is what is known as individual differences. Some people believe, so let me just write it down. One, see, there are people have characteristics, and people have behavior. Okay. And when you notice a variation in all both of them, then only you can say that you are noticing what? Individual differences. Okay. So some people believe that our behaviors are influenced by personal traits. Okay. Sometimes it is influenced by personal traits and sometimes it is influenced by situational factors. Situational factors. Okay. Now, this view of our behavior being influenced by situational factors is known as situationism. All right. Now, if you can consider an example, like an aggressive person behaves submissive in presence of their boss, right? So the factor here, the situation over here is the presence of the boss. The aggressive person may be behaving aggressive anywhere else, but because there is a situational factor, that is the presence of boss, that is why the person is behaving submissive. So sometimes the situational influences are very powerful, and they are so powerful that individuals with differing personality traits also respond to them in almost the same manner. Okay. A shy person may also behave submissive in presence of a boss. An aggressive person is also behaving submissive in presence of boss. So what is happening here? A situation is there, a situational factor is present. That is why all of them are relatively acting more or less similarly. Next, we move forward to the next topic, that is assessment of psychological attributes. Okay. When we're talking about psychological attributes, these attributes are not linear or unidimensional. Okay. Now let's focus on the term assessment. What do we actually understand with the term assessment? So, assessment is the first step in basically understanding a psychological attribute. This refers to measurement. Measurement of what? Measurement of psychological attributes of individual and their evaluation plus evaluation of the psychological attributes of an individual. Okay. Assessment can be of two types. It can be formal and it can be informal. Formal assessments are basically objective, standardized, and organized in nature, and informal are open to subjective interpretations. Okay, the attribute that is chosen for assessment depends upon our purpose on what do you want to assess the person on. Okay, so psychological assessment was systematic testing procedures to evaluate the ability, the behavior, and the personal qualities of an individual. So let's just discuss about the domains of psychological attributes. Okay. Now, the first thing being intelligence. There are six domains. Actually, there are five domains. So, intelligence. Intelligence is the global capacity to understand the world, think rationally, and use available resources effectively whenever one is faced with any sort of challenge. Fine. Simple definition as it is given in your NCERT textbook. Then you have aptitude. What do we mean by aptitude? Aptitude refers to an individual's underlying potential for acquiring skills. Okay. This refers to the underlying potential that an individual may be having. Okay. Now, this aptitude is used to predict what an individual will be able to do if that individual is given with proper training and proper environment. Then the third thing you have is interest. Interest essentially is very important to understand interest as well. Now, individuals' preference for engaging in one or more specific activities related to other. So, see, if a person is not interested in a particular activity, she may not be giving their best or putting their entire attention towards that activity, and you may not get the actual desired results that you were waiting for. Therefore, interest is also very important in considering whenever you're testing a particular attribute. Okay. Then you have personality. Another attribute is personality. Personality is really basically relatively enduring characteristics of a person that makes him or her distinct from others. And this is what assesses unique characteristics of a person. It explains their behavior and predicts how they will behave in the near future. Okay. And then you have fifth one, that is values. So we are talking about the dominant ones. Okay. Everyone has certain set of values, and we're talking about the dominant values. Okay. Values are basically, the dominant values are basically the enduring beliefs about ideal mode of behavior. See, for me, my value system believes in something else, and for you, it may be something else. So, my dominant value traits have a certain ideal mode of behavior that for you may not be the ideal mode of behavior. Okay, now we talk about assessment methods. So, till now, you have done the assessment, and let's say you've studied the psychological attributes as well and the domains as well. But assessment methods, how exactly are you going to conduct this assessment? The first method is psychological tests. Okay. These tests again are objective and standardized measure of individuals' mental or behavioral characteristics. Okay. So you have two types of tests. One is objective in nature and the other one is projective in nature. Objective tests measure all the dimensions of psychological attribute. It is usually used by clinical diagnosis or guidance. Okay. Projective test is assessment of personality. This is assessment of personality. Okay. And objective was what? Measures all dimensions of psychological attributes. All dimensions. Okay. Next method that you have is interview. Now, interview is basically the most simplest form of assessment method because it is just seeking information from a person on one-on-one basis. Okay. Then you have case study. So case study is basically is mostly used by clinical psychologists, and this is an in-depth study of individual in terms of his or her psychological attributes, history and context of his or her psychosocial and physical environment. Then you have observation. This entire topic is basically a summary of whatever you did in chapter 2 of class 11. Okay. Scientific methods of inquiry. Yeah. Observation. So observation means employing systematic, organized and objective procedures to record. The key term over here is to record the behavioral phenomena that is occurring naturally in the real time. Okay. And then you have fifth one, self-report. Self-report is basically a person provides factual information about himself or herself or opinions about the beliefs they hold. Fine. Now, till now, we have already finished over variations in psychological attributes. This was the chapter's name. But now we will be focusing more on the intelligence as a topic. Okay. So first we will be discussing about multiple definitions that we have. So as per Oxford Dictionary, now see, you have to understand the key terms because essentially for CBSE, keywords is the thing that matters the most. Okay. So as per Oxford Dictionary, they have defined intelligence as the power of perceiving, learning, and what else? And understanding and knowing. Understanding and knowing. Okay. This was Oxford Dictionary's definition. Then you have Alfred Binet. Okay. What does he has to say about intelligence? That it is the ability. Intelligence is nothing but the ability to judge. Ability to judge, understand, and reason well. Okay. Then you have Wessler. So in terms of functionality, he has defined intelligence. Okay. That intelligence is okay. First, focus on functionality. Where functionality means the value for adaptation to environment. When is a definition or when is a concept considered to be functional? When it is adapted in the environment, right? So functionality here means value for adaptation to environment. Okay. Now, in terms of functionality, he has defined intelligence as the global and aggregate capacity of an individual to again think rationally, act purposefully, and deal effectively with his or her environment. Fine. So this was the definition of intelligence by Wechsler. Okay, moving forward, we also have a one-liner given for Gardner and Sternberg that intelligent individuals adapt to the environment and actively modify or shape it. Okay, now we will be discussing about the theories of intelligence. So, we have different multiple approaches towards this particular theories, the theories of intelligence. And the first theory that we're going to discuss about, the first approach that we're going to discuss about is the psychometric approach. Psychometric approach. We are talking about the theories. Please make sure. I'll write it, etc. Theories, okay? So, psychometric approach. As per psychometric approach, intelligence is the aggregate of ability. What is it? Aggregate of ability. So, this means that it expresses individual's performance in terms of one single index of cognitive ability. Okay, now let's discuss the multiple theories that we have under this psychometric approach. The first theory that we have to discuss is unifactor theory. Unifactor theory. Okay, this is the first one. What does it have to say? So, Alfred Binet comes again and he says that the theory of intelligence as per him is consisting one similar set of abilities which can be used for solving any or every problem in individual's environment. One similar set of abilities which can be used for solving any or every problem in individual's environment. Then you have a two-factor theory. So two-factor theory was given in 1927 by Charles Spearman. And he says that intelligence consisted of general factors and the specific factors. Okay. Or every person has some sort of general and specific factors. Okay, he conducted a statistical method that is called factor analysis. So, as per general factors, you have the general things that every individual, intelligent individual has. Okay, let's say mental operations. Mental operations is quite primary and common to all. Okay, everybody can do that. I'm talking about a healthy person. Okay, so and then you have specific factors. Some people are intelligent in some or the other aspect of some of the other aspect in their life. Okay, so that is two-factor theory. Now we have to talk about theory of primary mental abilities. Okay, what does it has to say? So, as per this, Louis Thurston gave this particular theory. Okay. And as per this, intelligence consists of 7 primary abilities. 7 primary abilities. Okay. And these all of them are independent of others. Let's discuss. Number one being verbal comprehension. If we're talking about verbal comprehension, what all it can include? It will include grasping, meaning of words. It will also include concepts, ideas, all sorts of those things. Number two, you have numerical abilities. Numerical ability is also going to include what? Speed and accuracy in numerical and computational skills. Number three. Number three deals with spatial relations. Spatial relations. This is going to deal with what? Which visualizing the patterns and forms. Number four, perceptual speed. Perceptual speed. This is speed in perceiving the details. Number five. Number five is going to be word fluency. Word fluency deals with using words fluently and flexibly. Okay. Then you have memory. Memory is very simple, accuracy in recalling the information. That is what you call memory in general as well, right? When you're able to recall information that is stored in your brain. Okay. And then the last one you have is inductive reasoning. This also you have done in class 11th, inductive reasoning. It is deriving general rules from facts that have been presented to you. Okay. Next, you have another theory that we will be discussing. So this is hierarchical model. Okay. This was given by uh, Arthur Jensen. So as per this, you have two levels. The level one, it is associated with associative learning. Okay, you can consider an example of rote learning. So here, the input that you are learning is more or less similar to the output, right? When you are practicing rote learning, what do you actually do? You learn a particular set of information that is presented to you and you vomit it out wherever asked, maybe in the exam or whenever an external asks questions, right? So that's rote learning. Then you have a level two in this. Level two is when you actually understand the concepts behind it, and this involves cognitive competence. Okay, so it involves higher order skills that they transform input to produce effective output. Then you have, okay, this was a hierarchy model. Now we move to the next model. So this was given by J.P. Guilford, and as per him, he classifies intellectual traits among 3 dimensions. So if you have intellectual traits, he will be classifying it into 3 dimensions, which are operation. Let's discuss operation. So operation basically indulges with cognition. It indulges with cognition, memory, memory recording, memory retention, divergent or convergent production and evaluation. Okay. And then this was the first one. This operation was the first one. Number two, you're going to see that is content. Content deals with what? Content is basically the nature of material information. Nature of material information. Okay. Can be visual, can be auditory, can be semantic, can be behavioral. And then you have the last one that is the product. Product is the form in which information is presented. Form in which information is presented or processed by respondent. Okay. Now, this is classified as 6 into 5 into 6 categories. And this model has about 180 cells. Although this is not necessary, but then since NCERT has given, we can consider it for 1 macro point of view. Okay. And these 180 cells, each cell is expected to have one factor or one ability. Fine. And they have 3 dimensions to it. Okay. This entire model that we just did right now, intellectual traits being, this model is called structure of intellect model. What is this called? Structure of intellect model. So basically, we have done this as well. Now, we are done with psychometric approach. Let's move forward and understand theory of multiple intelligence. Intelligences. Okay. Okay. So, Howard Gardner, this was given by Howard Gardner. What does he say? He says that intelligence is not a single entity. It is not a single entity. When you were doing psychometric approach, it told you that intelligence is an aggregate, basically a single index of cognitive ability, right? But as per Howard Gardner, intelligence is not a single entity because there are distinct types of intelligence that exist and different types of intelligence interact. These different types of intelligences interact with each other and work together to find solutions to a particular problem. Let's discuss those types of intelligence. So the first we have over here is linguistic. Linguistic, the ability to produce and use language. Produce and use language. Okay. Capacity to use the language fluently. People high on this are word smart and they're sensitive to different shades of word meanings. Example you can give of poets. They are quite intelligent in this particular field. Okay. Then you have logical, mathematical. These people ability to think logically. They have the ability to think logically, critically, and solve problems. People high on this engage in abstract reasoning. Reasoning is very important here, and it is usually done by scientists. You can consider this example, scientists. Okay? Yep. Third one is spatial. Spatial is dealt with forming, using, and transforming, forming, using, and transforming mental images. This is done by mostly the painters, the pilots. Then next you have is musical. Musical, basically the ability to produce, the ability to produce or manipulate musical rhythms and patterns. And then you have fifth one, that is bodily kinesthetic. This is ability to use whole portion of body flexibly and creatively. Think of an example here. Definitely has to do with athlete. Okay. Then you have interpersonal. Interpersonal got to deal with subtle aspect of others' behaviors, ability to understand subtle aspect of others' behavior. Right? This is you can understand the behavior, the motives, the feelings to bond with others. Example, psychologist. Psychologist. Then you have intrapersonal. This got to do with yourself. Okay. So you are going to understand your own feeling, understand one's own feelings, one's own feeling and internal strength. Example, philosophers or the spiritual leaders. Then you have the eighth one, that is naturalistic. Okay, naturalistic. Ability to identify features. This is identify features of natural world. I mean, this may sound quite weird, but then if it's given, yeah, it is considered to be type of intelligence as well. So it is useful in recognizing the beauty of flora and fauna. Example, farmers or hunters. Okay. Then you have information processing approach. Now I think I am going to take a pause here and we will finish part one here because part two is again quite lengthy. So we'll do part two in the next part video.